Think about any book that really matters. A book that deals with serious questions worth arguing about. A text like that is going to produce many different interpretations. And not because readers are lazy or stupid. The text itself puts real, objective difficulties in front of anyone who picks it up. Start with the words. A lot of words have more than one meaning. So, which meaning is in play here? You have to decide. And pronouns. He, they, it. Who exactly do they refer to? Often it's not obvious. And where does this sentence really begin? Where does it end? How do you break it into parts? These aren't trick questions. They are choices the reader has to make on every page. And the meaning of the whole sentence depends on how you make them. Now zoom out. Even when you've worked out what a single sentence means, you have to figure out what surrounds it. Where does this thread of thought begin? Where does it stop? What's the context? Different answers may give you different meanings. And here's where it gets harder. In any text long enough and rich enough, you can find sentences that when you put them next to each other seem to contradict each other. You didn't notice because they were pages apart, but there they are. And now what? You can also find sentences that, at least on a first read, seem to contradict or clash with things you already know from other sources, from somewhere else. So which one wins? And then there's the simple fact that the text is finite. It ends somewhere. It can't cover everything. You can ask perfectly reasonable questions, important questions, that the text just doesn't answer. And no amount of honest logic is going to squeeze an answer out of words that aren't there. So what happens? People resolve the ambiguities differently. Some pick one reading, some pick another. Some try to keep both sides standing. And then on top of all that, you've got the questions that the text doesn't even address, a whole ocean of them. So, can you read this out of the text? Probably not. Can you infer it? Is your conclusion really grounded in the words, or are you stretching? By analogy? By logic? On whose authority? Here's one way to picture all this. Imagine the words of the text as dots on a page. The connections between them, which word relates to which, how they are sequenced, those are lines you draw between the dots. An interpretation is basically a way of connecting the dots and deciding which ones matter most. Some get circled in red, the important ones, other fade into the background. It's the same thing people do when they read with highlighters. The trouble is, there's more than one way to connect the dots. Just like the same data can support more than one theory. And as long as a reading connects enough of the dots and follows the rules of language and logic, it's a candidate. And looking at the text alone, there's no reliable way to say which candidate is the right one. People bring in commentaries, of course. Traditions of reading, trusted explanations. And those help. They add more dots to the picture and give you more to work with. But they don't solve the problem permanently. Because what are commentaries? They're just more text, ambiguous, sometimes contradictory, incomplete. Same problems, one layer up. So this is the first thing worth sitting with. Before we even get to the readers, before we talk about bias or laziness or motivated reasoning, the text itself is already doing this. The difficulty isn't bolted on from outside, it's built in. And that's worth pausing on, because so much of what people argue about when they argue about the meaning of important texts gets blamed on the other side. Their stupidity, their bad faith, their failure to read it right. But a lot of what's actually going on was there in the text from the beginning, waiting for any honest reader to run into it.